Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Happy Field of Dreams Day here on Sports from the Couch as the Chicago White Sox take on the New York Yankees. So when this episode drops, hopefully it was a wonderful game and each of us have some new memories in the greatest city in the world, Chicago IL. But on this edition of Sports from the Couch, we are not going to be on the diamond. We got to talk about the gridiron. We got to talk about the monsters of the Midway. More specifically, we are going to talk about Matt Nagy. He was on 670 The Score, a local radio station here in Chicago on Mulligan Hall, and had some interesting things to say. So we're going to replay that interview from a few days back and interact, kind of see how we feel about questions and answers, and talk about it here on Sports from the Couch. But before we get into all that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow me all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. Be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. We're on all major podcast platforms. Check out the video version of the podcast on youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Make sure you guys subscribe to us over there and hit that bell to get notified every single time we upload a brand new episode. You can also check us out over at ROKU. Shout out to Jerry Riles and the team over at the Rewind Sports 60. They got an amazing lineup over there. Check us out over at the Rewind Sports 60 at Roku. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the network over at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag over on teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. And of course, keep up to date every single time we drop another one of our amazing podcasts from the network, like the Gone Missing podcast, the Two Nerds of a Feather podcast, the Good Brothers, and of course, our interviews with athletes and celebrities. Just follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. All right, so like we mentioned, it is a busy sports week, a busy sports day here in the city of Chicago, but I wanted to really talk about this interview that just happened a few days ago. As of this recording, it is August 12, 2021. This was about 36 hours at this point when Matt Nagy did this interview, and it is with the morning show Mulligan Hall on 670 The Score. I highly suggest you guys check out the entire show. It's a great, wonderful show here in the city of Chicago, so I wanted to just kind of dissect it. Talk about it, and we can kind of go piece by piece to see what we think about what was being said and kind of the reaction to local media about it. So without and let's not wait any longer. Let's just get right into it, guys, here on Sports from the Couch.
You know, is there a path for the backup quarterback to win the job, or is that set in stone?
No, first of all, like you said, getting to the unofficial depth chart, I know that's part of the process. And I think that's for us as coaches to be able to evaluate all these guys. And it can get challenging at times with all the different players we have in the positions and who's playing, this quarter, that quarter, how much, are they playing with this guy and that guy? And so it's for us, the biggest thing we want to do is take all these practices that we're having and let them play in a real live situation. And I think when you look at the quarterback situation right now, with what Andy has been doing and just the amount of command that he has and where he's been with this offense, and the same with Justin and Nick, Justin's really, really growing at a great rate for us mentally and physically. He's taking it all in. I know he's super excited, as are the other guys, to get out there and play a real game, on Saturday. And so it's going to be fun for all of us. Justin's going to get a lot of reps. And I think for all of us, we've been waiting all this time to be able to see these quarterbacks in general get out there. And then for us to move up and get Justin, we know this is his time in the preseason to show what he can do. And we're going to get that chance on Saturday to see it.
So first thing, I think what we've kind of had to talk about this as the months have gone on, the offseason, and kind of looking around the landscape of the NFL. While it's not ideal that Andy Dalton in 2021 is, your QB1 if you're a team that has aspirations to win a Super Bowl, But it's another thing when he's just part of your QB room, right? Like a QB room of Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, and a highly coveted rookie quarterback. That's a nice thing to have. And I think in general, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, it seems like Justin Fields, at the very least, seems to be the goods a little bit. Whether or not he's Patrick Mahomes, that's a different conversation. That's crazy. I don't know if he's going to end up being a bust. Again, that's a different conversation. That's crazy. But if he's a competent, if he's a professional quarterback, it's a good thing to have Andy Dalton in your QB room. That's luxury. And, Nick Foles can bring some type of equity when it comes to a trade or, again, just having somebody who's won a Super Bowl. And I'm not talking about on the field stuff, but just those intangibles that you can't learn anywhere else besides being there. Not only in a game, but learning from other professionals. And Andy Dalton, again, he's not going to ruin your franchise. If anything, he's going to do what he needs to make sure that you guys are able to win a game. He might be able to be the guy to win you said game, but he's not going to be the dude that loses you that game. And I think that's an interesting thing to kind of just on the jump to talk about this QB room. Now, Justin Fields getting a lot of playing time. That's the only way this happens, right? Like, we know they want to be patient with Justin Fields. We know that there's problems with the offensive line. I mean, Tevin Jenkins hasn't been playing, has a back issue. You don't have Leno. Like, there's stuff going on with this offensive line, and it is scary to put your prized QB that you just drafted and moved up to get in that position. But he's going to need to play. And live action against Miami, whether it's these practice games that they're doing in scrimmage during training camp or on actual Saturday nights when they play their first preseason game, he needs to see live action. He needs to see how it is when dudes are playing for contracts. Because now from this moment on, dudes are playing for contracts. Players are playing for contracts, playing for futures, playing for their kids' education and the food that they're going to put on their table. So it's all on the line now. And that's what you want to see when it comes to scouting a rookie quarterback like Justin Fields. Because we've seen it. We've heard about the 7-on-7, the 2-minute warning drills. We've seen it. We've heard about it. It's been talked about from local journalists. But to actually hear from the head coach that that's what they're going to do, that's good signs. Let's continue on with the interview.
Coach, what has Justin Fields done best at camp, and how prepared are you for the runaway expectations locally if he does what he has done at camp Saturday at noon?
Yeah, no, you know what? He's done a few things really well. Number one, he came in from the offseason, and his number one objective to come in here and make sure he could get the plays in and out better than what he was doing in OTAs, and he accomplished that. Calling the plays in the huddle for him, he's beat that curve. He's way ahead of the curve on that part, and that's exciting for us. The second part now is being able to see the defense and the post-snap progressions of the rotations of the safeties and the second level. And then obviously the first level there too, with the stunts and blitzes by the backers and making the right ID calls with its protections. What was that part too, X's and O's wise. Then the third part that I think he's done a great job with, and we'll see more of it on Saturday in a real situational game, is how do you bounce back from, maybe a poor decision, a poor throw, or on the opposite side, how do you respond after you make a good play? To me, so far, what I've seen is I think he's done a really good job of balancing that, and he really doesn't let a previous play affect the next play. And sometimes that's hard to get from people and at all positions, but he's done a great job with that. And I have to credit Andy and Nick with making sure, they've been awesome in the meeting room and teaching him how to go about things. And again, we're all excited to see them all play on Saturday.
So what I wanted to talk about in that question and that response from Matt Nagy, from David Hall about kind of Justin Fields' play is you think about the way he talked about Mitch Trubisky and the way kind of reporting came and scouting came from him, that he just wasn't quite getting it. And this isn't no dig at Mitch Trubisky. And by the way, Trubisky got it wrong on social media. He didn't diss the Chicago fan base or the organization. You guys really should check out the entire clip. But you could just kind of hear it in the way other players talk about it, the way reporters talk about it, scouts talk about it. This dude gets it. Justin Fields is a prodigy. He really is, just as much as Trevor Lawrence was, just as much as Zach Wilson is. Like, there is something special about the way Justin Fields reads the Matrix. Again, it's all speculative whether or not it works out or it doesn't. Whether we have ourselves a Super Bowl MVP coming up or we have ourselves a bust. It doesn't matter. We've heard it that the people who know best see him understanding it. And if he's making mistakes, he's able to adapt, learn, and adjust. And that's the big thing in the NFL. It's all adjustments because they're going to figure you out. You're going to figure them out. They're going to figure you out. You got to figure them out. That's the game. That's stuff that Mitch couldn't figure out. All the athleticism, all the grit, all the want is wonderful. But if you can't put it into action, if you can't be a sponge with a room of Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, have your Georgia and Ohio State background, a prodigy from day one in the South, if you can't put it all together, then it's all for naught, right? But it seems like just from what the word is the word, Bird, that this is what's happening. So let's go on with this interview from 670 The Score. Mully and Hall, they are on from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. in Chicago, Monday through Friday. This is their interview with the head coach of the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy. We are reacting to it, talking about it. You guys can check out the entire interview over on the Odyssey website here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Let me know your thoughts on what the coach of the Chicago Bears has to say. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. Be interactive with us on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk.
Coach, you mentioned he's going to get a lot of plays. Will he get any snaps with the first-team offensive line with the top skill position players?
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance of that happening as we go. You know, for us, we have some competition there at that line, and the reason why I said that in regards to individually with how much guys play per quarter is we're probably going to go into this thing with it being different this year with only 3 games in the preseason, which we're excited about. Having to figure out who we want to play at certain spots for whether it's a certain amount of plays or it's a certain amount of quarters. And I just think the more we talk about it as a staff, it's probably realistic that some of that's going to happen with him. And even maybe not even just the first game, but the second and third game. So the good thing with having a guy like Andy is we know, number one, he's aced the test in regards to this offense and the command and calling plays. He knows it inside out. We know he's played, 9-10 years in this league. So we know he can play in an NFL game. For us, we got to be able to evaluate Justin, too, and see where he's at, and this is the time to do it.
And it's funny because that is the truth of the scenario, right? Like, this isn't about seeing if Andy Dalton is still the goods, if he could be the old gunslinger. This is about whether or not the kid can go. And Andy Dalton is going to be fine. Nick Foles, they're going to be fine. They know how to get their body ready. They know how to play in the National Football League. They've seen it and done it all. They've been in the playoffs. One has won a Super Bowl, right? So this is about Justin Fields and seeing whether or not that he could keep up with the speed of the game. And if it is a Russell Wilson and Matt Flynn thing where, yeah, you brought in the free agent, you said a lot of things to him, but the guy that you drafted that just has the spark and the imagination of the fan base and the players around that roster, he took it. And that could be the case right here that we need to see it. And I think that's something that can't be lost, though. Besides the hype of Justin Fields, and I actually have it pulled up right now. We'll talk about it in a little bit from the practice with the Dolphins, the hype of Justin Fields. But Andy Dalton, you can't disrespect Andy Dalton. He is a pro quarterback, and he is going to do what he has to. He's going to be a professional, and if all things are okay, this is a guy that can be 500, that can be that bridge to Justin Fields, and who knows what happens, right? Later on in the season, you have a decent record, and then you have this kind of going, and Andy Dalton compared to somebody like a Mitch Trubisky, you can do the bench-unbench thing. He is very mentally strong in that aspect. He's confident in himself. He knows he's got a job in the NFL for another 10 years if he stays healthy. So let's keep going with the interview.
The other rookie that means so much this season, Coach, is Tevin Jenkins. And where are you with his recovery? And how much of his back issues are related to the injury issues that kept him out of the final 3 games last year at Oklahoma State?
Sure. No, Tevin is doing everything he can right now to get through this. And we were well aware of everything, with some of the back issues that he had in college. And right now, this is just kind of a part of the process, and we know that. So we're going to just keep staying positive with him, and we have a plan with Andre Tucker, our head trainer, and our doctors. And, obviously, Tevin's frustrated because he wants to be out here with his brothers. But Right now, that's not the case, and he's just doing everything he can do each day to get better in the training room. And in the meantime, we got to focus on what we have right now going on there. And I think it's been well stated that that's an open competition, and that's going to be one of our number one objectives is making sure that we go about that thing the right way. And I just say this, Juan Castillo as our offensive line coach, I put a lot of stock and trust into him, and I really believe that regardless of where this thing goes and how it gets there, I have confidence in knowing that, we as coaches and him as a coach specifically at that position, that we'll be able to get through this thing.
So what I take from that, and I think it's its own criticism, it's a critique, but it's also, you got to keep it real, right? You got to be real about it. So they got Tevin Jenkins. There's a reason why the rest of the NFL let him get to the second round. They didn't think he was a left tackle. Was the back a real problem? I don't know. Everything could be all good with the kid. He could show up and play 17 weeks and have himself a Hall of Fame career, right? Like, I don't know. You don't know that. But what's interesting is what we do know, where we're at this point. They felt confident enough in either their training staff or their reports that they can give up assets, move up, and not only draft him with back issues, apparently knowing full well that he had them, but then having him change positions when you just drafted a rookie quarterback. Like, there is in its own right enough to criticize right there. I can like the makeup of Jenkins. I can like what the potential of him can be. But the idea of your biggest asset now, your biggest project, the thing that matters to most is what's going to happen not only with Justin Fields, but to make sure you protect him long enough that he reaches that potential, or what you believe that potential can be. And that's not what they did in that scenario. Maybe they believe that can't be it, and we got to give him credit for, we got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I don't trust this front office when it comes to being able to draft guys that aren't injury prone. Kevin White was the first pick in this entire regime, right? It's like, we know that this front office is more than happy to draft a guy that's not going to play a lot. So that worries me a little bit. And especially because it's this duo that was brought in together to be the nucleus of your team moving forward. And right now, one of them hasn't practiced, hasn't put pads on. And you're going to need him to protect your star rookie quarterback now. Let's keep going. Let's go for a little bit longer. I highly suggest you guys check out at the Odyssey website at 670 The Score to hear the entire interview with Coach Matt Nagy with Mully and Hall. But we are just reacting to what the coach had to say in this interview here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you guys so much for joining us as we listen to the head coach of the Chicago Bears talk about his football team.
Has Juan told you kind of exactly when the player would have to be back in order to start the season opener? I mean, you haven't really had even the opportunity to evaluate him yet.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, no, we've talked a little bit in regards to more so about just depth and where we're at. And you play the what if game. Okay, what if he's ready tomorrow? What happens in practice? What if he's ready in 1 week? What's that look like? And so that's where we just got to stay in good communication with our trainers and just get a feel for where things are going each day. And we'll do that. But again, this is going on in a lot of places. There's holes that some teams got to fill, and we realize at the left tackle position that's a big one, and that we want to get it right. So we're going to do everything we need to do to make sure that thing gets done the right way, and we're working on that every day.
I know you said that you had no stress, absolutely no stress about Eddie Goldman's situation, being on the COVID list and coming back. But what gives you the confidence that he can come back and be the kind of player that we remember him to be? Because it has been a while, Coach, since he has played football.
And really fast before we hear that answer, Eddie Goldman's going to be a big part of this, right? Same thing with Akeem Hicks and how much that's going to benefit somebody like Khalil Mack and Roquan, and he's a big part of it. And it was really sad to see him get into that COVID list because of him missing last year of fears of COVID, but it seemed like that was a false report or a contact tracing. So let's hear the answer of how important Eddie Goldman is to the Chicago Bears.
No, yeah, you're right. And that's very realistic to have that feeling. And I didn't know, to tell you the truth, until he got here in training camp to really see what type of shape he was in. But he got here in training camp and he just really impressed all of us. And it was crazy. It's crazy to think about when he's been out of football that long. And but that's a credit to him. I know he was staying in shape during the season last year and doing everything he can so he didn't come back here out of shape. And now for this to happen, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I just know that he cares, number one. And as long as he cares, then we know we're in good hands. And he'll come back in here. And Coach Rumpf has done a really good job with that defensive line, building a relationship with those guys. Eddie has been the same old Eddie when he was here. So I just think that's what gives me comfort in knowing when he comes back here, I really feel like we're just going to take off.
Kindle Vildor atop the depth chart ahead of Desmond Trufant, which, I think speaks to your confidence in him as a player. I know you've said that he's playing fast and that you like what you've seen from him. Where are you guys at with the corner position? The nickel back, I didn't see the depth chart address that. I guess it's Duke Shelley. How confident are you with those guys in that secondary?
And when I see this Bears roster, and as the coach is going to talk about the secondary, this is a team that's going to rely all on its front seven. It's all about its linebackers and its interior linemen, and it's outside rush. That's what this team is going to be based on, and it's athleticism. They do have talent in the secondary, but you saw from the moves that were made and the guys that were let go that this is a case where that's going to be its weak point. Let's hear what the coach has to say about that then.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was another one that for us that we wanted to make sure going into this thing that we knew was going to be a lot of open competition. And when you put this unofficial depth chart out, it gives us an opportunity to really, I guess, from the early start here, show the way guys are playing in training camp, early part of training camp, but that thing is still open. Kindle has come in here, and I think we felt it at the end of last year. You could really see his confidence start to grow towards the end of the season. He came into OTAs and he was really, really confident. He was playing with a lot of swag and just in a good way, and it was infectious. Then he comes into training camp, and now he's just out here and he's doing everything that our coaches are asking for. And how do you not love that as a coaching staff and as a scouting department to be able to get a young guy like that has that? And you just never know when you hit on guys like that. So he's got a ways to go. He's competing. And the same thing with nickel, like you said, with the nickel position. Duke Shelley right now, would be the unofficial starter there, but there's competition there as well. And so these guys are going to have to show what they can do. And we realize that, with Coach Sean Desai now being the defensive coordinator, you guys know he used to coach the nickels, and that's a very valuable position to him. So we're really putting things together. We're going to see here the next few preseason games how it turns out, but we love the competition, and there's a really good vibe right now on this team.
Alec Ogletree has been an interception machine since coming into camp at linebacker, the veteran who has joined the Bears. And how might he impact this defense, Coach? And is it true that was he just visiting? Robert Quinn happened to be in the building, and you guys ended up signing him shortly after that?
Yeah, so number one with Ogletree, I think it's funny. We always joke. I mean, he came in here and comes out here, puts the pads on, and has like 7 interceptions. We talk about it like he swallowed a 4-leaf clover, but he's around the ball everywhere. And Robert and him are close friends, and so they were around and just supporting each other. And for us, we actually happened to be having some guys go down at that inside linebacker position, so it was something that our scouts with Ryan and his guys are always looking at different positions to kind of fill up some depth at that spot. And he came in here and he's taking great advantage of it. And so, the thing with him, as you guys know, is he has a ton of experience, and he had a pick against us a few years ago, and it obviously hasn't left him. So what a great opportunity for him to come in here and show what he can do. And we're excited about it.
And I think that shows, again, what we were talking about, that they want depth in linebacker and in defensive linemen. And I think they believe that if they're able to rush the quarterback, get to the quarterback, that they're going to make opportunities for their secondary to get the ball or to disrupt themselves on the defensive line or linebackers and get a possession for the offense. So I really do think it's going to be a philosophy thing of a linebacker defensive line thing for the Chicago Bears.
Matt, you mentioned Sean Desai. I read where he hasn't decided yet if he wants to be in the booth or on the sideline. and he'll be experimenting a little, I guess, in the preseason. Is it an obvious preference for you? Did you have to make any kind of adjustment, and what advice have you given him?
No, you know what? So I want him to be wherever he can be most comfortable. And this is what I've done both. And so the thing is that, obviously Vic was up in the booth his whole entire career. And then he gets hired as the head coach. And now he's down on the sideline, and that's different. Those guys get really comfortable up there. You can see a lot more up in the booth. You can see what's going on. You got a bird's eye view. It's a little more challenging when you're down on the field. But I know Sean's going to try both, test it out, and see what he likes to do. And I just want him to be comfortable. The positive part of being on the field is you're there communicating with the players. You can feel it all. You can see it all with them and just talk through things. But at the same point in time, he might like it up there, and whatever he wants is what we're going to roll with.
And I think that that'll be enough of the interview. You guys should check out the entire thing over at the Odyssey app and their website. For 670 The Score, the Mully and Hall Show, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 670 The Score. Coach Matt Nagy joined Mully and Hall, so check that out. And thank you to them that we were able to react. And, I wanted to end there because I kind of wanted to just end on Matt Nagy himself. And I like Matt Nagy. And, of course, as an NFL coach, he's not going to give you a lot. There's a lot of just speak. There's a lot of words, but not a lot of substance. But I think there's a genuine emotion-tied person, dude, behind the coach. I do think he's genuine. I do think that he cares about people. He cares about his team. He wants to be successful. He wants to make other people successful. He wants it to work out. He wants people to believe in himself as much as he does. I truly believe that about Matt Nagy. Does that mean he does the best play calling? Is he the best coach? Is he going to win 6 Super Bowls? None of that matters. I'm just talking about the person himself. And you can kind of see it because he's never lost this team. And I think that in the NFL, where we've seen first to worst and last to first and just how volatile it is, he's never lost the locker room. And you notice where in the beginning of the offseason, they were very gung-ho on Andy Dalton. And they still are. They're doing right by the veteran and by the guy they gave money to, and to make sure that they're being fair to the situation. But he also understands that if Justin Fields is the way to go, and if the team is telling you it, if the aura is telling you it, if just the universe, everything is telling you that's the way to go, he's not going to be a contrarian and come backwards and push against it. I think he's a forward-thinking man. I don't have to agree with everything he does, believes, whatever, but I do believe that about him when it comes to football. And I think that's important for this team right now that's in transition, that also wants to be competitive, but also has a very important mission statement, which is develop and create a all-time Bear quarterback in the rookie they brought in a wonderful prodigy, a wonderful talent in Justin Fields. So I like that interview. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And before we head out, I wanted to tell you guys, again, we went on social media and there were a couple things that happened during this practice game between the Dolphins and the Bears during training camp. They are leading into their Saturday afternoon game, that is, at Soldier Field. So here's from Adam Hogue, again, a Bears beat reporter. Well, there's no doubt that the best QB on either field today was Justin Fields. Just completed a nearly perfect red zone period. Only incompletion was a drop by Ryle Ridley in the back corner of the end zone on a good ball. All of Fields' talent was on display. #Bears. This comes for Jeff Dickerson. Justin Fields was on fire during a deep red zone period versus the Dolphins. Had 3 touchdown passes and a nifty out-of-the-pocket scramble that resulted in a rushing TD. Should note that QBs are not to be touched in practice. And here's one that should get all Bears fans excited and all fans of football or you Buckeye Nation lovers. This comes from a Miami Dolphins beat reporter, David Furnos, on seeing Justin Fields at practice. He appears to be the real deal. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this edition of Sports from the Couch. If that doesn't get you hyped up, if that doesn't get you excited, Bears fans, you might have yourself one in Justin Fields. But at the very least, you know you got football season back. It is going to be a wonderful time this Saturday as the Bears take on the Miami Dolphins in their first preseason game. But until then, enjoy the Field of Dreams game between the White Sox and the Yankees and all the football nuggets leading into the first preseason games. Let me know, what did you think about what Coach Matt Nagy had to say? Are you excited about the first preseason game of your team or the Chicago Bears? I'm all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. Be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Please like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcasts on all major podcast platforms at Mercado Airwaves. Check out the video version of the podcast at youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Please subscribe to us over there and hit that little bell to be notified every single time we upload a brand new episode. Also, check us out at Roku. That is right, we have partnered with the amazing Jerry Reynolds and the team at The Rewind Sports 60. That's on Roku at The Rewind Sports 60. Become a producer of the network at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Check out our swag at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Give us a like over on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. If you want to be part of the mailbag edition of the show, send us an email with your question over at sportsmercadoairwaves@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to keep up to date with all the podcasts, anytime we drop a new episode of the Two Nerds of a Feather podcast, The Good Brothers, The Gone Missing podcast, an interview with an athlete or celebrity, follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy all the games. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.